Some people come into your life quietly. No warning, no sign, until it's too late to look away. Three years ago, my partner and I bought our first home. A quiet street, wonderful neighbors, a simple life. So simple, it almost felt too good to be true. 18 months later, those neighbors decided to sell. Their house was bigger, better, a driveway, a garage, a bathtub. We bought it without hesitation, and we put our old house up for sale. The buyers were a Polish couple, pleasant, polite. They spoke English to us, not Dutch like the rest of the neighborhood. We exchanged tips about the house, a few smiles, some small talk. Looking back, that was the last normal moment we'd have. It started quietly, banging, at midnight, loud music blasting through walls, without warning. Not every night, but enough to make you wonder, who exactly is living just a few feet away from you? Then came the first red flag. The neighbor came home one day with severe damage to both sides of his car. Deep scrapes, like something moving at high speed had torn through the metal. We asked what happened. He fumbled. A concrete pole on one side, a trailer taking a wide turn on the other. We nodded. We smiled. We said nothing. But the math didn't add up. Then, one evening, he called us in a panic. Men outside his house, tampering with his security cameras. He begged us, "Please, call the police." We looked, and sure enough, two men breaking in. We called the cops. 20 minutes later, the burglars were gone. His wife came screeching down the street, ran inside to check on her dog. But the husband? He had parked his car 3 streets away and walked to the scene, almost like he didn't want the police to see his vehicle. I didn't notice it at the time, but I would later. We checked our doorbell footage that night, and there he was, one of the men, standing outside the door before the break-in, calm, relaxed, discussing which house to target. In Polish, nothing was stolen, no one was caught. I told the police it felt like a setup. I never heard back. The quiet returned, but it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence that waits. The second time, there was no mistaking it. 1 week after the first break-in, I was at a housewarming party when my partner texted me. The music next door is insanely loud again. A few minutes passed, then he called. His voice had changed. Something was wrong. The neighbor's car had just torn through our front garden and slammed straight into their own front door. 2 men were loading the car, frantically. Flat-screen TVs, professional speakers, high-end electronics. The same men from the week before. This time, the police arrived in 7 minutes. They caught the men mid-loading. "Where's your ID?" The men said they had none. Then, the man behind the wheel looked the officer dead in the eye and gave a name. My neighbor's name. But here's where it gets strange. In 9 months of living next door to us, my neighbor had never spoken a single word of Dutch. This man spoke it fluently, with a thick Polish accent. The game was up. They knew it. They slammed the car into gear. A violent chase tore through our quiet streets until the police finally boxed them in. 3 suspects, arrested, but my partner could still hear movement inside the house. The police went back in and dragged out a third man. While we were inside giving our statement, the doorbell rang. We turned, and there he was, the actual neighbor, his face unrecognizable, swollen, bloody, one eye completely shut, his arm hanging at a useless angle, covered in what looked like defensive stab wounds. He looked feral, broken, like something out of a nightmare. The officer tried to intervene, but the neighbor refused, flatly refused, to file a report. And since the victim wouldn't speak, there was nothing anyone could do. The police left. The street fell silent, but the night was far from over. There are moments in life that stay with you, not because they were loud, but because of how quiet the terror was. That night, he rang our bell again. Trembling, he confessed he had cheated on his wife. He said she had sent people to take him out. He begged to sleep at our house. We said no. My partner drove him to the hospital instead. We dropped him off at 10:30 p.m., told him we were staying somewhere else for the night. We weren't. We went home, locked every door, and tried to breathe. At 1 a.m., our dog started growling. That low, specific growl he only uses when someone is at the door. We checked the camera. There he was, back from the hospital, standing on our porch, ringing the bell over and over. We sat in the dark, watching in silence. Then, headlights. A car turned onto our street. He panicked, scrambled off the porch, and hid behind our cars in the driveway, crouching in the shadows. This bloodied, broken man, hiding in our driveway. The car stopped. A woman stepped out, his wife. She walked toward her door, paused, and looked toward our driveway. She saw him. She walked toward him, and as she stepped into the pale yellow glow of the street lamp, she began to wail, a haunting, guttural cry that echoed through the empty street. He said nothing. She kept asking, her sobs getting louder and louder, until finally, they got into the car and drove away. We didn't see them for 3 days. The wife came back alone, found the dog inside, and told us she doesn't think she'll ever see her husband again. Was it drugs, debt, a marriage that turned lethal? I've asked myself these questions 100 times, and I've come to one conclusion. Some doors you leave closed. 1 a.m.,